What day
I
is
love
it?
it's Thursday, the 10th.
Incorrect. It's launch day.
Oh,
I'm so hyped. I'm so pumped, in case you can't tell.
I'm so
Uh,
tired. So
yes,
like,
I've been buzzing all day. I got up, you were still up, and
yeah,
so
this was
you're
3
like
3 a.m. So
up until 3 a.m. We launched the new site. We launched V1. We've tagged it as an RC, release candidate, just to give us some wiggle room. But for all intents and purposes, this is V1. It dropped today. Um, with the site, with the new docs, with the new guide, with all of it, everything we've been working so hard for. So, community's pumped. The reception has been good. I mean, people are complaining, but I wouldn't expect anything less.
some people say it's the worst site they've ever seen. So like since GeoCities, that's my
I
favorite
grew up
book.
with GeoCities. That's where
Yeah,
where my first website. That's a compliment.
yeah. It is funny that people will find anything to complain about. So don't use it, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah, so Datastar, it's at the same place. It has a new home at the same place, but we have a brand spanking new website, and I'm really happy with how it came out. It's it's engaging. Like anyone who's listening to this, go check it out and look at it. But essentially, you open up the new homepage, and you're hurtling through space, right? We have like a star field, and it's a web component that you can control with a little slider. You can control the speed, and it tracks your mouse as you move. And this is kind of a cute little gimmick, but at the same time, if you take a closer look, and if you open up the little kind of this little dashboard on the right hand side that is showing you your X and Y coordinates of your mouse and the speed at which you're traveling, and if you open that info thing up, then you can actually see that this is a web component being driven by Datastar. So we're kind of showing you like straight up, like this is a tiny web component that Datastar can drive on the front end. Uh, do you want to say
Yeah,
something?
there's a marketer that I watched on YouTube a little while ago that's like when restaurants are competing for like 3-star Michelin stars. One of the things a lot of people say is that you should always try to match what your competition is doing. And he said you should actually do the opposite. You should look at the areas where they're really failing, what they're worst at. So his example was like beer drinkers usually feel bad when they go to a fancy restaurant. But if you had a beer sommelier that actually took pairing seriously and all that, it elevates it. So the first thing you see on Datastar is actually a web component. It's not an SSE thing. It's not talking about the back end. It's not doing any of the hypermedia stuff. It's showing that we're able to do things that other people can't do out of the box. And we are constantly saying like web components are a good thing when you have uh, something that's kind of special and a star field that's generated dynamically as you're playing with the mouse movement is something you don't want to wait on the network for. So I feel like it's funny. People are like, "Oh, field doesn't feel like Datastar," but it's like, but it is. This is exactly what Datastar is used for: is to drive all the components on your page. And so it's, I think it's a good start. And then the next demo down is our the Hello World of Datastar, which is pretty great.
Yeah, and I'm really happy with how that came out as well, because we were able to integrate the fact that you can send back SSE and stream events, or you can send back HTML. So if you set the speed to the delay to 0, then it'll just come back as HTML, and you can see that kind of like in a little network tab that we've created, which mimics what the network response might look like. And of course, then you can play with the interval by just increasing that, decreasing it, and you see straight away, how the back end responds to that. So we've gone from a front end focused demo then into your back end focused demo, where we can show both streaming and request response. Um, yeah, I think it's fun to have demos that are, actually how Datastar should be used in practice, and they're going to the back end. We're not faking any of this. This is, actually streaming events back down. You can open your network tab and see them happening in real time if you like. And underneath that, we have a video that Pete and Anders made, where we kind of, it's a cute little look at a little comparison of different front end frameworks, and really highlighting that Datastar is powerful and flexible, and yet tiny and uncomplicates everything. You don't need a bunch of packages. You don't need hundreds of kilobytes of JavaScript. It's just a 10, and we should say we have launched this at 10 kilobytes compressed, which is pretty incredible. It's lower than it was during the entire beta, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's correct.
And we've talked about how we achieved that, and part of that is that we have now pulled some of the plugins out of Pro, and a lot of the stuff we've just removed dependencies, right? We've brought things like Idiomorph and the morphing strategy into Datastar.
Or completely rewritten parts and pieces. So it's not just pulling stuff in, it's actually a rewrite of to be just the parts we need and make optimizations that we don't have to worry about other people's assumptions, which is good.
Exactly. And same goes for the signals library. We have our own signals library based off of alien signals with the stuff that we don't need kind of removed.
Yep.
Yeah, and then underneath that video, we have another section where we actually are showing you some front-end code, some back-end code, and how those interact together. We've kind of done a Space Odyssey theme for the website, which I really like. It takes me back, and it matches the theme quite well. And then after that, we have a couple of quotes. We have one by Anders and one by Theo, which is fantastic that he gave us a quote for the website.
Best quote ever. You'll know it when you see it.
Yeah, and we've put up Anders' demos, which we've talked about here as well. We had Anders on to talk about the game of life, but he also, since then, has done 1 billion checkboxes and 1 billion cells, which we have not talked about, I don't think, because that came out extremely recently. We can come back to that, or we may even have Anders on, I think, in a coming episode. So this is, I don't know about for you, but for me, this is a big relief because especially, remember, last time we were on, I said the last 10%. And then I hit myself for saying that. But it really was the last 10%. It's just the last 10% really is so much work. Like there's just so many small details that go into the website. But it's running great. We have a few tiny issues, most of which we've smoothed out, like just some missing images and some DNS issues and some issues with examples, but those are all minor
there is
things.
A couple examples that we'll be looking, like we're trying to figure out what's going on. It works completely. Basically, we have a Cloudflare DNS caching thing, but like if you ran it from ngrok, it works fine. We'll be getting those knocked out. Like those are the kinds of things that you just, once you figure out what the magic formula is for Cloudflare, then it'll work. So this is just always the problem. I've lived with the website for years because it was just basically to throw something up to let people read something. And the content isn't that different, but it's different. Everything's different enough that it really does feel way better. It's weird. It's just like the death by 1,000 cuts, but it's like the opposite of that. It's like the mending with 1,000 little bandages. Like it really is better. And I'm now using it actively, which is funny. Like it's my
besides the old essays and the how-to guides we did have on the old site because we recently introduced those. But besides those, like the guide has been completely rewritten. The reference docs have been completely rewritten. Like it's not a coat of paint, paint of code. It's a full like rebuild. We started from the ground up.
100%. It's just funny because the structure of it's very similar to what was there, and yet it's just night and day different. Like it's actually useful now. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, we've been looking at this version of the website in dev for so long that this has been the Datastar look and feel for a long time. Every time I've had to visit the old site, I was like,
I know, it feels really bad.
Still live?
Yeah, it's a little rough.
So
but that site is dead. It never existed. What are you talking about? This has always been, always been at war with Spot.
Web archive is not a thing, right?
Nope.
So we have a pretty long changelog as well, which is up on the site. I'm just looking at it now. We're not going to go through everything. A lot of these things we've actually talked about on here because this changelog is from the last beta version, which is, I think it's 2, maybe 3 months ago, believe it or not, the last kind of public version that we put out there. So this changelog covers all of the changes since the beta up until the this now public release candidate, because we've talked about RCs, and this is partially my fault. We had like RC1 through 13, but it was
Because
private, so we
it was
didn't
an
consider it
internal
public.
RC, and then or
Yeah,
like for reals, it really should have been called like Gamma or something. Like it wasn't
yeah,
really an
yeah,
RC. It was more like for SDK developers. Like, is this gonna work?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're not
It
good at
should have been a
naming.
gamma. You're right, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's not a common versioning nomenclature.
yeah,
So, but there are some things that I think we want to highlight in terms of like what is in the framework that is different from the beta. And I think from the outside looking in, you'll be like, okay, there's um, a few API changes and a few different attribute names. But really, the big one is for me is signals and how essentially every signal is a reactive object, or there's one big global reactive object. We talked about this a little bit last time, but essentially everything is a signal. And that's a big difference because during the beta, only the leaf nodes were signals. We call them namespaced signals because people pointed out to us originally they were nested signals. People pointed out they're not technically nested. Now they are, and now everything is a signal. So, can you
yeah.
kind of describe that in a bit more detail?
Sure. So for people that are coming from a spa or anything else like that, it's very similar to how reactive works in Vue and how Svelte does stores and Solid does stores as well. Basically, we played with the namespace thing. The reason why is I kind of got into the weeds of like I wanted fast. Fast is fast, right? The thing is that what we kind of found is that there's a lot of things that are easier when it's dynamic, especially around arrays, and be able to just treat an array of signals as just you push to the array and it magically works. Being able to bind directly to an array element. People were asking for this stuff, and because we're a full framework as opposed to just a library, it did make a lot of sense, and Johnny did the work. And the nice thing is, even on a very complicated page, we have like an order of magnitude less signals than the average application when it comes to a spa. So there's a lot of things that you just don't need to do. So it's a good trade-off, and it is so easy to use. All the things that we were running into with people, basically the whole thing of why we were waiting on V1 is because we just were listening to people complain, and that's a good thing. Like we were saying, what are the pain points? What are people running into? Because I've said it before, I was done with Datastar like 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, this is good enough for me. I have data on click and data adder, and I can do all the things I data on and data adder. Basically, you can do everything from there. So, but the API is way easier to use. I'm now in love with it. I will. You can take it from my cold dead hands because now that I have it, I'm using it like crazy to do some pretty interesting things that are really dynamic. So, from the outside perspective, technically it got a little bit slower, but we're still using the fastest approach that we'll take anyone like on with it, and we're doing it still in the 10K. So like I feel really strongly that it was the right call, and it's pretty exciting. So yeah, it's all just built in. It's within the core. So that core is I think 3 or 4K now, which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I think when you first added signals, the idea was, you're going to sprinkle this around your front end. But of course, some people are using more front end heavy signals than others, and now it just works the way you would expect it to. Like there's almost no situation where you need to understand that only the leaf nodes are. You just use it, and it will
Yeah.
be
Well,
reactive.
and also, it's not the case that just leaf. Literally, everything is signals within signals and signals that signal signals. Like everything's a signal. It's not just the top level that we were talking about before, where it's a top level thing and it proxies and makes everything look like a signal. No, everything is a signal all the way down. And because we're doing a declarative thing, we can clean that up and do the right thing for you. So again, declarative is really where it's at. When you say create index in Postgres, other than if you set a type or something, like you don't know how it's doing that, what it's doing, what optimizations it does. Declarative really does allow you to do some interesting things as a library and framework author. That I'm 100% sold that declarative is the way that you should interact with this stuff for everything. So
Yeah. So let's talk about the scoping, because we talked about that on the last podcast, how we have a new attribute data scope. What happened there?
So the long story short is I had been thinking about it for a long time, and this was our basically our last call to make breaking changes. And so I just started going hog wild with them. Like I was using them at work. I was doing things. I love it. It's great. Does all the things I wanted to do. And then we started talking to people about it and trying to explain it to the rest of the team. And like it was very hard to explain because it made perfect sense to me. But the problem is the way I was using it was basically as an encapsulation of what I could do inside of web components. But I could basically do these little one-off things that are the equivalent, like basically web components, but without the whole connected and disconnected callbacks and all that. Like I didn't have to encapsulate to do what I needed to do. Well, the problem is people started asking, how do we do this? How do we hook this into our backend? And how do we do all these things? I'm like, that's not what the intent is at all. And the problem is it exposed it in a way that like the foot guns came about very quickly. So the good news is that we ripped it out. We just said, nope, like there's too many ways to get this wrong. Let's toss it. But we are working on a thing internally that will be this will be very shortly. Like there's not a lot to it, which is good. A tiny little framework. It's like around a kilobyte, roughly 1.5. That is our version of like what a lit would be, which is a very thin wrapper that lets you to do web components and hook up signals and do all the prop stuff and automatically clean yourself up. All the things that I was using scope signals for, we're gonna have a tiny plugin that will allow you to just do this stuff directly in a web component, which is really how you should have done it in the first place. So the irony is I was using scope signals as like a little mini framework for not doing web components, but really I should have just been doing web components. That's really the answer.
Because I documented how to use Datascope, and then when people were looking at it, they read my docs, and you were like, "Wait, this is not what I intended." I mean, the docs were correct, but the usage or the intention of what people were wanting to do with it was different from what you had intended, which is essentially to encapsulate a piece of the DOM. And hey, we have web components, which are a web standard.
Just use the spec. Even Delaney gets that wrong sometimes. Like, just use the spec.
But the reason for this new framework, which I think internally we're calling Rocket, are we calling it Rocket?
I think Rocket's the name we're probably going with.
Yeah. The issue with web components, because we've written a fair share of them at this point, is that they're quite verbose to write out, and there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of hooking stuff up, and if you know that you're making a web component that you want Datastar to interact with, well, guess what? We can provide you a very shorthand way of hooking those things up, and we can do that for you. So Rocket is our attempt to make writing web components that interact with Datastar much, much easier and quicker. And that will solve the whole scoping issue, because the scoping issue was meant to solve front-end encapsulation and nothing to do with the back end, right? For the back end, you already have nested signals, and you already have, you have the back end. So you have a templating language. If you need random signal names, you can generate those very easily. You can use, random or simply unique signal names. And if you want those to be front end only, prefix them with an underscore. If you don't, then don't.
Yep.
Yeah. So this meant that we were able to pull that out, even though we'd written it and done all the work, and it just felt to everyone on the internal core team, it felt like the right call. It reduces.
I say it's literally the last time we talked. We were talking about how we got into the fight over wildcard and the convenience of the glob kind of style of includes and excludes, and we made it better by putting it out to plug it out and putting it into the inspector. That was the right call. And I basically fought myself and then told the team, like, I'm getting rid of my own thing. Like, it's got to go. It's really good, but like, I love it. And it's going to cause me issues at work. I have to pull out a bunch of stuff, but I don't care. I'd rather have Rocket and have the right thing when we get to it and do the hard work in the meantime. So,
yeah, it's interesting as a framework maintainer, right? Where you have to kind of put your own wants to the side and say, okay, I would love to have this, but does it make sense, for the greater good, really? And in both cases, I think I would still like to have the wildcard syntax or glob syntax. You would probably still like to have Datascope, but we found better ways to make that work. And hey, if we hear from the community like this is sorely missing, we really want this, then hey, we can add it back in. And that's the idea.
Speaking about adding stuff back in, is that the whole thing we've been working on right now is the irony is that from beta or even earlier, the things that we've been doing is actually deletions. Like we've been doing breaking changes, but almost all of it has been removing stuff. One of those examples is like there was a thing in there that was an abort controller, which again was one of the things that people are like, "Hey, I want to be able to abort something that's in the middle because I have a slow network or something else is happening, or I double clicked and I need to cancel the original one." And so we had this abort thing, and we're like, "Here you go, do what you want to do. Like we'll support it." But we literally ripped that out so that that interface is gone now, and all we do is we have a weak map that we track the abort controller, we take care of it for you, and automatically abort something so that you don't have multiple things in flight on the same element. Um, so it's a good thing because like we were ready to make breaking changes, but their breaking changes was trying to remove foot guns. Like that's it.
Yeah.
We went from 6 things down to 3 for the SDKs, and really you only need 2 of them to like do most things. And like that's a good sign that I think we're done, is that we were like, we don't really need this. Like that feels good. That feels like we're really in a good place where we don't need something and we can figure out a better way to do it. Like that's the part I'm excited about. That means we're
Yeah.
really done.
Yeah. We're really about giving you everything you need, nothing you don't, like trimming the framework down to the bare minimum that is, fully functional.
Well,
And
in fact, the one thing that was going to bring up is that people are like, "Oh, you have Pro and you're hiding things behind Pro," and that's just not true. I want to make sure people are clear that we're doing that so that like instead of trying to grab corporate sponsors and all that, like have your company pay for like a license. That helps everything. I'm not making money. We would like to recoup some of the costs that have gone into setting the nonprofit and all that. Like this is not a big play for a VC thing. Like it's just like, hey, we want to make it somewhat sustainable, and the general open source thing is not sustainable. But a perfect example of this is we have been doing a lot of tooling for the things that are going to be built on top of Datastar, and we found that we are constantly using data on signal change or on signal patch. All the time to do certain kinds of things like forms and validation stuff. And it's one of those things of like, it really does feel like a tool that everyone can use. So we took it out of Pro and put it into the other. So it's not that Pro is like us gatekeeping the really good stuff. It's more, is it a foot gun? Is it something you can screw up? Does it actually make you fall into the pit of success? If it doesn't match all those criterias, it goes in Pro, but there's no reason that we can't take stuff from Pro and put it into the core framework stuff as we see usage. Like it's not a gatekeeping thing as we're trying to stop people from building what they want. It's that like you don't need it most of the time. That's more, I want to make sure people know that like we already have taken stuff out of Pro before it even launched. So
for the most part, it's conveniences, right? And with data on signal patch, which we took out of the framework and put into Pro and we brought back, we realized this is not so much convenience. This is very practical for many use cases. So we put it back in. We can reveal all the details about Pro now. I think we were kind of like teasing out details in previous episodes here. So currently the pricing, and I'm going to say this is introductory pricing because, we may change this at some point in the future. We currently have a solo plan, which is for a single developer, gives you lifetime access to all Pro features, which means all of the Pro attributes, actions. We have actually a new event. I'm not sure if we talked about this for upload progress. I don't think we talked about that last time, but a way of when you're uploading large files, you can get real-time progress on that file upload. Then you get the inspector, the bundler, and Stellar CSS, which we've talked about here, and it's going to change, but let's come back to that in a moment. So that's the solo for freelancers or single developers. And then we have a team plan, which is for product teams up to 25 people or up to 25 employees. Again, lifetime access, and it's $999 for unlimited projects. So if as a team, you realize Datastar is useful, if it's an agency or some kind of product development team, you can use that forever. And anything above 25 employees, we're calling enterprise. So we're going to do that on a case-by-case basis. I feel like that's a very generous price point. Again, we're not in this for the money. It's more for sustaining the nonprofit and sustaining us as maintainers of of the project going forward.
Yeah,
But
it
we are going
one
to be
one thing I
adding
will say, it's gonna
things.
get bigger over time.
Yes.
I guess that's literally I took it out the words out of your mouth. Like,
Keep going. Yeah.
no, it is going to get bigger because now all the time has been spent on making sure the core it can be basically fossilized. Like we don't want to see it
Yeah.
change. We don't want to see V2. We want to like build on top of it. I already teased last night some work that I was doing. There, the rocket stuff will be coming. Like
Yes.
so we want to build a bunch of things like UI like the ideas of like a Shad CN but better, like a Tailwind killer. Like all these ideas are sound like we're pie in the sky, but like if you go look at something like AG Grid, which is just a data table, and it's $1,500 or more for a license, and like we're going to be doing, guess what? We're going to have a data table. We're going to have UI things. We're going to have headless things. Like the library things that we want to make useful for everybody is going to grow really fast now that we don't have to constantly be changing the sand from which our foundation is laid. Like that's now that that's all now we're on bedrock, we can move pretty fast on some interesting ideas because I dog food this stuff all the time. There's things that I need to do my job, and I feel like there's a lot that can be done really quickly because this is stuff everyone needs. So I'm really
For sure.
excited. We'll be doing a lot of the stuff that UI libraries do, and a lot of stuff that the equivalent of a tan stack would do in the spa world. And you're getting that for like a dirt cheap price, and it's just going to get better over time.
Yeah.
So,
And it's optional. If anyone complains,
oh yeah,
hey, Datastar is free. Go use it. It's open source. So, but yes, that's a very good point. Like and it's the reason that we've been taking our time. And I don't mean in the sense that we've been going slow. It's just that we've been very particular about getting this right because this is the foundation on which everything else can be built. Um, did you tease Stellar? That was on Twitter, right? I can link
I
to
did
that.
it on Twitter and I did it in our Discord. I basically was like, "Hey, I've been working on this for a few hours. Like, I finally Datastar's done. Okay, let Delaney play. Like, what can Delaney get done?" Is kind of where I was at, and I got a lot done.
You did. I mean, people should understand, like, Stellar has been around for a while. We've talked about it here. It's been, like, fermenting in your head,
Well,
this
it's
idea of
also
an
like literally
editor.
being used on the website right now, right? Like the
It is
version, there's a version of it that's being used on the website now.
a version of it, but what you teased out is an actual visual interactive editor powered by Datastar, no less, and powered by on the back end as well. So it really like is an impressive thing that you were able to throw together because I feel like everything else is so solid. Like the Datastar is solidified and it's solidified in your head, like how you want this editor to work. It's
Mhm.
very impressive, actually. And yes, people might think we're crazy. Yes, are we trying to take on Tailwind? Yeah, we
100%.
are.
I
We're
will
trying to,
take on
make.
Tailwind.
We're trying to fix CSS. We're trying to fix web components. We're trying to fix, front end frameworks. Yes, those are the types of problems that we're aiming to uncomplicate.
Well, and the thing that's interesting is that I said we did a little blog. I finally wrote the thing that Ben asked me to like 3 months ago. I wrote a blog post that was, like the road here from my perspective, because it's been a weird road, especially the last 9 months, right? Since I did that talk. Um,
Yeah. Well, you called it V1 and beyond, right? Because
mhm.
there's the road to V1, which is a previous essay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I basically was talking about it. And it's funny now that doing declarative interactivity is so easy. Like, I think anyone that's listening for the first time, like, just try Datastar. Like, just using it, I think you'll see that it is the easiest way to do this stuff. But the funny thing is now things that didn't used to bother me really bother me. Like I think Adam Latham and what he's done with Tailwind, especially when it came out, is by far the best answer. Like I started using it the instant it got announced. And like while everyone was poo-pooing it as like this thing that you can't use, it was the best tool for the time. The thing is that CSS and everything has moved on. It's gotten better. You have nesting. In fact, the mixins and function stuff is right down the pipe. When that happens, it's going to be a monumental shift in what you can do. And so I'm very much I like hypermedia, but I don't want to go back to the 2000s. I want to use modern approaches to the modern web. I feel like the same thing. I have the same feelings about CSS, and we are dogfooding this stuff. Like Stellar, we use Stellar on the website. We did semantic things. It's raw HTML. There's not Sass. There's not anything like that. And we felt some pain points. And that's a good thing because that's when innovation comes, when you get like that weird itch of like, this didn't used to bother me. but everything else is so nice that this shirt all of a sudden feels itchy when I was fine with it before. So that's a good thing. Like, we dog food our stuff. So this is another situation like that.
Yeah. HTMX is deprecated.
Yeah. So in my blog post, I took the spicy take that yeah, I don't see it. Like, when we got on top of Hacker News, um, people that were talking about that, like, hey, you're not doing this or you're not doing that from HTMX, and everything that they talked about that was at all even like an issue, we now support, and we're smaller, and we do all the things out of the box, and we have idiomorph, and we have signals, and we have, like, I don't see the value in the other thing. I will say, take any thing that you've done in HTMX and start afresh. Like, don't just try to just straight port it. Like, don't just do out of bounds stuff and all that. Like, actually rethink your site that you did in HTMX and do it in Datastar, and I guarantee it'll be smaller. It'll be simpler, it'll be less code, and it'll be faster. Like, please do the head-to-heads and tell me I'm wrong. Like, everything has its purpose, and they've already said that, like, HTMX is done. It's solidified. They're not changing anything about it.
Mhm.
And what you get is what you get. And that's not enough. Like, it's just not enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, in my mind, it served its purpose. It's a great project. It's done a lot, but I don't see a future for it when you have something like this.
Yeah, I think we've said in the past that Datastar is a superset of HTMX, and I feel like it is in the truest sense now, because if you really want to do a straight migration from HTMX to Datastar, you can. There's nothing stopping you. And the same goes for Alpine.js. Alpine.js has, I think it has XIF and X4, but you only need those in Alpine because it assumes you're doing everything on the front end. With Datastar, you have a back end, so
Well, and not just that, the Rocket stuff, you will have those kinds of, you'll have
yeah,
basically tag template literals and standard web component stuff. So we have that too. In fact, we are faster because we're built into like, we're native for
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. So I feel like, and I hope this is also reflected in the website. It was one of the intentions to kind of say, okay, HTMX is in the past. Maybe that was part of the origins of Datastar, but we've left that behind. And besides mentioning it in a few little places, that that Datastar essentially can do what HTMX and Alpine can do. That's kind of it. We leave it at that,
Yeah.
and then we just move on. And we're just gonna show you everything that you can do, rather than trying to replicate things that maybe you
Well,
thought
we're
you
also
could
at
do
the
in
point now where
HTMX.
people can compare for themselves. Like, literally, like, I will not be surprised when the reports come out and if people are metrics based and they actually look at the load times, they look at the render times, if they look at how much memory is used, if they look at all this stuff, um, they're gonna be surprised. Like, I will take, and the thing is that that's not an ego thing. If we're wrong, great, we'll fix it. Like, guaranteed. Like, we care a lot more about performance at a low level than most of the other teams. That's what I found. I don't know if that's because the background in game dev or what it is, but, like, we tend to care more about actual metrics more than vibes, more than any other group that I've seen. Uh, Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we're at right now.
Yeah. I want to give a big shout out to the SDK developers as well, who've been really on top of things. Um, we, we said the SDKs were done, and then we, pulled out a bunch of events and made everything smaller, but still made work for people. So the SDK developers have been great. Most of the SDKs have been updated now. A few of the lesser used ones, like the Haskell one, have yet to be updated. I think Henry's on top of that.
Good.
But otherwise, most of the SDKs should be there. If not right now, then in the next day or two, probably. But thank you to the SDK developers. I'm not going to
Yes,
call them each by
100%.
name, but you know who you are. We appreciate it very much.
Well, and
And
really,
also,
the public
go
RC
ahead.
is more, like, we, the core team, are done. Like,
Yeah,
if anyone finds an issue or finds, like, the thing is, people are finding issues with, like, the website in Cloudflare, not with Datastar itself, which
right.
is a good sign. Like, that's a good day when it's like, oh, Cloud DNS is your issue. DNS is always the issue. So that's a good day. But
Yeah, or you have which is I found 3 instances of that. I was like, oh god, but happens.
well, I can't spell, so I can't really throw stones. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty exciting time, and but the good news for everyone that's been like, "Oh, I'll wait till I get to V1, I'll wait," we're done. Like, the
Yeah,
core team is not changing anything. We don't wanna change any API. We're done until someone finds a hardcore issue, which I just don't think is gonna happen. Like, we've been baking on this for forever.
right.
I just
In
don't
fact,
see a
this
big thing.
morning, just as we were about to launch, you and Johnny kind of jumped me and said, "Should we just tag this as V1 and
I
drop the
kinda,
RC?"
yeah, like well, the thing is that from a core team perspective, this is V1. Like,
Yeah,
nothing about the approach is changing. We are done. But it is more of a, like, did a, SDK developer do a thing? Like, there's been a couple of things back and forth about execute script, and, like, it now needs to be called out in the ADR versus not. Like, these are, like, very minor points that people using it don't really care about, but, um, yeah, the core team's done. We're moving
yeah.
on to other things, which is great.
And my main point was, if there's a glitch in one of the SDKs, as somebody coming to this, and if it's tagged V1, I expect everything to work smoothly. So that's why I think that was my main argument for tagging
Oh, it's very
RC.
valid. But it's not really
Yeah,
us. It's the getting the SDK developers like a like
yeah,
a full day or two to like
yeah,
actually try it.
and just making sure that the entire process is smooth, regardless of which part of the stack you're touching. I also want to give a quick shout out to Arcus Tech. That's where our website is hosted,
Yeah.
and they've just given us a hosting plan, which is great. So it's a 2 gig, 2 core VPS that they've given us to use indefinitely. So it's very generous. I actually know Nevin. I've known him for a few years, who's the founder of Arcus Tech. So thank you to them.
Yeah. Thank you so
Um,
much. It's awesome.
and it's good to have the site on an actual web server with a CDN in front of it and doing image optimizations and caching and compression, all this stuff. We have to do a little bit more tweaking. It's difficult, because what we had the site for about a week on a kind of staging domain, but it's difficult to test these things before you're live and in
It
production, right?
really is. There's no good way. It also, for people that do buy Pro, it actually worked. Like, if anyone's set up those things with Stripe and like having GitHub integrations and all these things, like that stuff never, ever, ever works. It's usually a week or two, and it looks like Ben got it work. Like it works.
It, it
So
worked
far,
first time. I was amazed because the minute we launched it, somebody bought Pro, and I
yeah,
found
within a
out a
minute.
couple of minutes after. I found out because he was posting screenshots of the Data
I
Science
know.
Vector.
I
I was like,
know.
huh? How
You
did this
thought you
happen?
leaked it. I think. Like, did you think you just leaked the whole inspector thing?
Yeah, I thought something had gone horribly wrong and somebody had just gained access to the Pro, but no, they went through Stripe and then they were given access to the GitHub repo and the
Yeah,
bundler,
that's
and
amazing.
yeah, it worked. So I have to say, I really like Go. I really like the experience of this is the first website that I've been part of a big build, and it's not just a website. Of course, there's a ton of stuff that we're doing there as well. I'm enjoying it. It's feels repetitive at times, and you've said this that Go is nicer to read than it is to write. I can attest to
100%.
that. Um, but I feel like once you figured it out, you figured it out,
Yeah.
which is good.
Well, then also the thing is that there's everyone. It's kind of one of those things where nobody likes the style, but everyone's style looks the same. So when you go look at
Yeah,
someone's library, it's basically the same code. Like, there's nothing
it's very
interesting.
consistent.
There's nothing clever. You don't see clever code in Go. So it's nice. So another thing that just because internal minutia, people that actually listen to podcasts, and if you're 30, 40 minutes in, you kind of listen to the whole thing. It's been interesting. So we went from when I first did this site, I did it all with Markdown, and then I converted it. And again, I did this on the Go side, but I like converted and then changed it into uh, HTML on the fly, blah blah blah. But this time we just went in and used Temple and just wrote components and wrote HTML. Like, there's no Markdown for the essays. Like, the essays are just written in HTML. Guys, it's not that bad. Like, instead of having 10 million tools, just use the tools like that we set up for anything else. Like, I don't know why it's funny that like blogs you have to write in Markdown. It's like it doesn't save you that much time once you do interesting things. If you're doing a very boring straight list, but if you're like, oh, I want to put in a dynamic piece of content, or oh, I want to do this special header, or oh, I want to add an example, you're you're basically in HTML anyway. And we found that over time we start adding little like things or putting block quotes or doing like
Yeah.
something interesting. And it's interesting that we just took all that stuff out, and I think it's actually easier to follow internally now. Um, so that's
Yeah.
kind of a fun tidbit.
Well, what we were finding, or what I was finding with Markdown files, because I do enjoy writing Markdown for documentation. What I was finding is I was inlining HTML tags every time I needed to do something a bit more. And every time we had inline demos, I had to do that. And that got a bit tedious after a while. So now we can like properly inline demos because we can do whatever we want right there in the HTML, in the temple code. Yeah, in terms of like the build process as well of the site, we're getting really into nerdy kind of boring territory here, but it's really nice. It's just the build process at the moment is I just I either commit with a deploy message or I go to the GitHub action and hit deploy, and essentially we have a GitHub action that builds the site, turns it into a binary, it SSHs into the server, it copies up the binary, it once that's copied up, it pulls out, replaces the old version, so kind of hot swaps it. I have Caddy there, but I don't restart Caddy. I just restart the Go app, and then
Well,
it's good.
and
Like
you
it's
actually
good
installed
to go.
Coolify and did some other stuff, and then you ended up saying, "Why? Why am I doing
Yeah,
any of this?" Like Coolify is
yeah,
supposed to be the interesting, like make it easier, make all this easier, and you're like, "I just do a couple things and
yeah.
I'm done."
I like myself a GUI, right? So I thought, hey, Coolify should do all of the server provisioning and stuff. It was just way overkill. Like it's running Docker, everything's built in Docker. You have this big set of config stuff, and because we have like a single Go binary that can be built anywhere, it can be built locally, it can be built on GitHub Actions or in a Docker container. It's like we end up with just one file.
Yep.
So do I need this? Do I need Coolify? It was just overkill, really. Um, I wanted to be able to trigger it as well. I wanted everything to go through GitHub because that's really our hub for for where we write the code and where we do all of our deployment and stuff. And knowing that was the case, well, guess what? You can do everything through GitHub Actions. So why have this extra layer doing all this stuff? And it felt a bit like it's just a big fat abstraction that I would rather not have because our setup is so simple. We have a Caddy web server, which does the SSL stuff for us and routing. And the Caddy file is extremely simple. And then we have a single Go binary. That's it.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Yep. It's a pretty simple way to work for sure. I'm sure coming from PHP, it's a different because a lot of that stuff gets automated for you, but it kind of feels like magic to me. Like I don't know exactly what's happening, whereas this is very explicit. I'm sure that's quite
With a
a change.
PHP app, well, with a content management system, you generally have a lot more services running at the same time. Yeah, you'll have your Postgres or MySQL database. You'll have an instance of Redis. You'll have a couple of other services as well with cron jobs and background tasks and stuff like that. We fortunately don't have any of that. We don't even have a persistent database because we're
Well,
not
we have a
storing.
persistent one, but it's used for like the to dos and other things. Like it's anything we could throw
Yes,
away. It's persistent but ephemeral. Yeah, which makes it
that's
really nice.
essentially what I mean.
Yeah.
I would call it ephemeral because we throw it away each time we rebuild the app, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying that there are some like we do actually save
Sure.
off certain things, but yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And in terms of, we don't store any user credentials. We're relying on GitHub and OAuth for that. So that's really nice as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always recommend to people don't do don't do stuff until you have to, and we're not in that place. But weirdly enough, we're gonna start having to have a database pretty soon because Stellar has changed uh,
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit. So the one thing that's really basically before Stellar was a web component that you put on your page, you handed it this JSON config, and it would generate all the CSS you need on the fly. Um, the problem that we found is this is something that Uno CSS dealt with, and all this is that in Firefox and in other browsers, you can get this giant flash of white that you cannot control without basically locking up the page. Like there's no way around it that's good, and it's causing a bunch of issues. But it basically like what is that? Necessity is the mother of invention. Basically, we took the ideas of it and we basically made it on the back end And since we're a hypermedia first framework, it actually was easier. So now I'm building the editor that's completely backend agnostic, but now you'll be able to save off uh, your themes. You'll be able to share them. You'll be able to also have, like, when you go to the website, you'll have the editor version if it's your thing, but other people will just get uh, the final view of it. And then when you link to it, you can automatically look at the content negotiation and then just give people the actual CSS that it generates and all that stuff. So like all these things get so much easier by having a backend and having um, it be a hypermedia first framework. But then at the same time, the editor is hundreds, if not thousands, of signals hooked up to things, and it just works. Like it's working fine already, which is pretty neat.
We're not making any promises about how it's going to work, but we have big plans. And you wrote, we have an open issue, make a SaaS, but it's not a software, it's a Stellar as a service, which I really
Yes.
like. So
Yeah. So the nice thing is people are thinking like, oh, is this some kind of weird stuff? It basically is that the irony is that I'm going to be, because I have it in the back end, I can do so much around hashing and caching of things that we aren't going to have to say, oh, here's your API limits and here's your other thing. Like we think that we'll be able to do a lot with it before anyone has any issues. So it's more that it allows us to have a little bit more control over how things get saved, and then be able to do things like, oh, this thing is really popular. We'll be able to upload it to a CDN specifically, and all these, like, there's some things that we can do that are really interesting. The plan, at least as far as I can tell right now, and Ben's welcome to it. Basically, you'll be able to share and link uh, any Stellar CSS thing with anybody else, fine, but the editor's built into the pro site. Like, so if you log in with your OAuth thing, you'll be able to basically play with the editor and go to town, but you'll be able to use other people's stuff. And we'll put a bunch of things like the Chadsey in New York and whatever the Cosmopolitan. I forget, there's Cosmopolitan. There's another one.
yeah.
We'll have those kind of styles. We'll have stuff that'll look similar to Daisy UI, Darkula's, Groovebox, that kind of thing. But then if you want to get in there and play, then that's just another part of Pro. So
Yeah. Again, not making any promises, but these are
no
ideas. This is where our
promises
head's
there.
at.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the podcast is about like, hey, like anyone that's 50 minutes into a podcast about two like boring guys talking about a front-end framework.
What we can promise is that you won't run out of tokens and then you'll have to like buy 100 more.
No.
100 or more.
No, there's
We
no
said we
loot
were not gonna
boxes
swear
for.
on this, but
Sorry, you
I'll
can beat me
bleep
out
that.
like in the tweet. If you're so yeah, because you have to find that beep sound, like the one they use for all the sensor stuff. So I can say like something else right now, right? And you're gonna beep it out anyway.
Let's keep. I'm gonna say it. Or what do you mean?
No, I was just saying I could do a full diatribe, but actually, like we just released, I'm in a pretty solid mood. I'm not really angry about anything other than
you want to drop some F-bombs just to release some energy.
I mean, I could say stop overcomplicating the web. There, that gives you a little bit to do in the.
Yeah.
There you go. It's funny, but no, we do try to keep it pretty good, like not swearing on here. But there's sometimes when
you almost said PC, I think, which is not what we're trying to do.
No, we're the opposite of that. We're just trying to be realistic, right? And there's times when some bombs are appropriate, but also,
but listening to this with the kids in the back seat or whatever.
Yes, that is very true. So I just should say more to make Ben's job harder for actually editing the thing. But no, we're in a really good spot now. It's so weird. Like we're not promising anything of what the future brings, but I will say that if I've had these itches about other things for a little while, and I feel like we can do better. I feel like the web could be better than it is right now, and be the change you want to see. And I want to see some changes to the web. And it's not that like HTMX has been a bad thing. It's a great library. I just think that people use it for the wrong things. And I think this is the same kind of thing. I think CSS, we can fix that. I'm really bullish on web transport, but that stupid Safari won't get its act together. So I have a lot of ideas there. Like, I'm not a web guy, but yet I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here that makes me feel like I want to be a web guy. Like now that Datastar is complete, I want to be more of a web guy. I want to be like really actively pushing what can be done.
Yeah. We're trying to actively leverage the modern web and build tools for that. Because it is getting better. And if you're still like in a mindset of 10 years ago of Tailwind is solving CSS for me, well, guess what? CSS has moved forward quite a bit and evolved. So maybe it's not necessary.
Yeah,
You're
even
always
things like
you're
container
always
queries.
looking forward though, right? And I'm
Yeah,
I'm just here to celebrate what we've achieved and and yeah, keep the spirits high. I know that Louis Sunshine, our friend who was on the show, is going to be streaming a live reaction to the new website and the new version drop. So I'm excited for that.
yeah, we should probably go watch that so we can
Yeah,
see what the reaction is to.
his reaction. He's a very positive guy, so I'm sure it'll be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Delaney, and thanks also big thanks to Johnny
Oh
for
yeah,
like he's
absolutely.
been doing a ton of work. I've already mentioned how talented and how lucky we are to have him as well on the core team. And thanks to all of our community and listeners, and thanks to the kids who are listening to this as well. Uh, you know, voluntarily or involuntarily, you're great, and we'll see you all next time
Yeah.
with another update.
All right.
Bye,
See you,
everyone.
y'all. Have a good one.